So to ঘুরিয়ে দিলে ভালো বুঝলে এই see their faces. So turn the chair a little bit. Hey. The left side so that
Pictures here.
it is good. Huh?
Yeah, we're doing live streaming tonight.
Today is an auspicious day, so it's a Swami Sarvadevananda Maharaj's birthday. So we can read little bit from his life.
You have space for book, mother?
Hmm?
You have enough space for book?
That's okay. I should not block. And we have also one devotee here, Subodhananda Swami's family. Who is that?
She here? No?
She may not be.
She came at lunchtime already.
Yeah. At least here we find that 56, about 36 page life is available here. Om Janani Sharanam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Sritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. So today, as I said, today is an auspicious day in this sense that one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, called Subodhananda Swami, commonly known as Khoka. Khoka means, you know, Khoka in Bengali, how it means. Khoka means a baby, child, no? Innocent. Khoka Maharaj, he is called, popularly known as Khoka Maharaj, his birthday. So, here we find that we'll read the life from this God Lived With Them. That book, we all are familiar with that, but to remember little of his life and work is good. So, Khoka, Subodh Chandra Ghosh was his earlier name, Subodhananda, but his earlier name was also Subodh. In November 8, he was born in 1867 at 23 Shankar Ghosh Lane, Calcutta. It's very close to Kalighat, Khantonia Kalibari, near College Street, and Siddheswari Kali. And his father was Krishnadas, Ma was Nayantara. They're devout Hindus, and they owned the Siddheswari Kali temple of Khantonia. And also, you know, Ramakrishna first came to Calcutta, and he stayed just near Khantonia, just maybe 2,000 feet or 2,000 yard distance. That house, Sri Ramakrishna used to stay with his elder brother. So, when Sri Ramakrishna first came to Calcutta in 1852, he often visited this temple as he was staying. Although Krishna Das, father, traditional Hindu, he was also closely associated with the Brahmo Samaj. And he would take his children to the Brahmo Samaj services and buy religious books for them. In the evening, Subodh's mother, loving mother, would tell him stories about from the Bhagavad, the Ramayana, and the Mahabharata. And these stories created a religious inclination in him from his very childhood. So that is the way Indian tradition is continuing for ages together. The Ramayana, Mahabharata, this impact, the moral values, this spirituality which India contains. Quote, when I was young, I used to read the biographies of holy people and would observe how their lives were transformed. That was said by Subodh later on. When Subodh was a young boy, He was afraid of riding in a boat because he didn't know how to swim. Whereas he also so afraid of the dark, so he would sleep in his grandmother's room. However, he had a premonition that he would not leave at home and would travel alone like a itinerary monk. From childhood, Subodh was calm, simple, and sweet. At the same time, he was quite outspoken. He was sent to Albert Collegiate School, where he was recognized as a brilliant student. He was gifted in mathematics and scored high marks in the classes. After being promoted to the seventh grade, he joined the Hare School. Subodh's family was rich, and at the time it was quite common for boys and girls to get married in their teens. That was the Indian tradition, early days. However, Subodh said to his father, "Please don't insist that I get married." Why? His father asked. "Study well and get good results on your exams, then we shall arrange your marriage with a girl from an aristocratic family." Subodh protested. "If you force me to marry, then I shall obey you. But I will leave home. Family life is not for me. Please don't entangle me." His father replied, "All right, let us now talk about it now. Let us not talk about it now. Okay, let it be pending. We'll take it in proper time." Subodh realized that if he received good marks on the examinations, his father then would arrange his marriage. So accordingly, Subodh did not try very hard and fervently prayed to God that the examination result would be bad. And he actually did good, get poor marks. The teacher suggested that he stay in the eighth grade another year, but Subodh moved to another school, Vidyasagar school. His failure in the examination had the desired result. His father lost interest in Subodh's marriage. Sometimes in 1885, his father told his son about Ramakrishna and his meeting with Keshav Sen. Subodh read about the master in Brahmo journals. One day, Krishnadas' father presented a book to him, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansir Ukti, the sayings of Ramakrishna, compiled by Suresh Chandra Dutt, one of the Ramakrishna disciples. Subodh was so deeply impressed with the book that a great desire arose in his mind to meet Ramakrishna. That is the way his contact is with the Sri Ramakrishna. When he told his father of this desire, he was promised a trip to Dakshineshwar on a holiday with the rest of his family. Now, in the company of Sri Ramakrishna. When a person knows a location of a hidden treasure, it is impossible for him to be patient. Similarly, Subodh became very restless to see the master. He could not wait for the holiday. So one morning in August 1885, he started for Dakshineshwar with his friend. However, they did not know where is Dakshineshwar, except they know that it was situated at the bank of Ganga. They walked quite a distance and lost their way. Subodh was worried because he had not gotten permission from the family. They arrived at Aryadaha, that means farther beyond Dakshineshwar, and asked the man way to Dakshineshwar temple garden. The man pointed out a shortcut over the ridges of the paddy field, and soon they reached Dakshineshwar. Subodh thought that the Paramahansa was some sort of magician. He had never been spoken to a sadhu or a monk. So he said to his friend, "You must first go and talk to the holy man. I don't know the proper etiquette." Then the friend agreed. That friend went to the master, who was seated in his bed. Subodh remained at the threshold. And Ramakrishna asked, "Where do you come from?" asked Sri Ramakrishna. "From Calcutta," his friend replied. Pointing to Subodh, the master said, "Why is that gentleman standing so far away? Come nearer." This encouraged Subodh to move closer. "Do you not belong to the family of Shankar Ghosh?" asked the master, just looking at him. Subodh was surprised and said, "Yes, sir, but how do you know it?" When, quote, "When I was staying at Chamapukur," said the master, "I often visited your home as well as your Kali temple in Tanzania. That was before you were born. I knew you would come." Well, the Divine Mother sends here those who will attain spirituality. So you belong to this place. At the very first meeting, how Sri Ramakrishna recognized, and though he does not know, Subodh does not know, but came in the presence of Sri Ramakrishna. "Sir, if I belong to this place, why did you not call me earlier?" The master replied, "Look, everything happens in the right time." This is also very important. Everything happens in right time. Sri Ramakrishna held Subodh's hand and closed his eyes for a few minutes. At last he said, "You will attain the goal. Mother says so." He asked Subodh to sit on his bed, and Subodh said, "No, sir, I can't sit on your bed. This is my school clothing. It is not fresh. Moreover, I have touched people on the way. My feet are dusty." The master forced him to sit on his bed, saying, "You are my own. What does it matter whether your cloth is clean or not?" Here also we can get some insight in it, no? We sometimes feel that, oh, this is clean, unclean, this, that. But when the love grows, no, Thakur is our own. So that time these formalities are become secondary. That does not mean that we should not follow the etiquette, but still more is this. "How have you come to Dakshineshwar?" he inquired. And the boys were sitting with his nephew Ramlal. Since the master's loving care and affection had removed Subodh's shyness, uneasiness, he promptly replied, "We have come on foot." Then, "My goodness, you have covered such a distance on foot?" And the master asked, surprised, "How did you find out about me?" Subodh replied, "I am impressed by reading your teachings. They are really remarkable. You are such a great man and so famous. Therefore, we have come to see you." Anyhow, then these words brought on a sudden change in Ramakrishna's mood. With a humility that amazed the boy, he said, "Ah, I am lower than a worm. Name and fame? Ridiculous. Really, I am more insignificant than a worm." After a while, the master said to Subodh, "Mother sends here those who will receive her grace. Come here on Tuesdays or Saturdays. Many people from your part of town come here on those days. Come with them." Subodh said, "No, sir, that will not do. My relatives will find out that I am coming here. Please tell me what you want to say and tell me now." "I cannot take back my words, my child," said the master. "If I say I shall go to a certain place on such and such day, I must have to do that in spite of rain or thunderstorm. Even if I don't like it, Mother drags me there. I have said those words, so do come on Tuesdays or Saturdays." So that is the way the first day's meeting with the master. Subodh agreed, and finding it was getting late, asked leave to go home. Have some refreshments, the master said. It is not necessary, sir. We shall eat at home, Subodh replied. No, have some sweet and water and then go, said the master, and he asked Latu to serve them. When they finished their refreshment, the master said again, your home is quite a distance from here. Moreover, you are too young to walk. Why don't you go by boat or share carriage? I shall give you the fare. Subodh said, I don't know how to swim. We can't go by boat. That was his fear also. Water was a fear. Ramakrishna said, then go by carriage. Subodh said, no, sir, we shall walk. Ramakrishna, look, my child, your feet will be tired from covering such a distance. Subodh, sir, we are young. He was then 17. We don't walk now. Then if we don't walk now, when shall we walk? Moreover, you are a holy man. Where will you get money? So it is like a child, like a very innocent child talking to Sri Ramakrishna. Like a conversation is like no much formalities there. Ramakrishna with a smile. Some people donate money for this place. You will not have to worry about that. Please take some money and go by carriage. Anyhow, since Subodh was inexorable, the master said, you take the money and go by carriage. But Subodh interrupted and told his friend, don't accept the money. We shall go on foot. Without insisting further, the master said, come again then, either on Tuesday or Saturday. And then they left. That was the first meeting. So, following Saturday, Subodh and his friend again played from school. That is the school palano chele. And many of our sadhus did that. Escaped their college classes and other duties, no? And ran to Belur Math to see the sadhus. Many sadhus live, we hear from them. It is the same. Ramakrishna started with his uh, children. The master's room was crowded with visitors. Peeping through the door, the boy saluted Sri Ramakrishna with folded hands. When he caught sight of them, he raised his hand as a signal for them to stay outside. And the master asked the audience to wait and then went out to greet them. So we can also find that how Sri Ramakrishna is searching for his own spiritual children who will be the messenger of his new dispensation or new ideologies. It was about 3 p.m. Sri Ramakrishna asked Rakhal to bring some Ganges water, with which he washed his own feet. He then took these boys to the stairs leading to the Shiva temple at the south of his dome. He sat cross-legged on the floor and asked the boys to sit down also. He then bade them unbutton their shirts and stick out their tongues. The master first wrote something with his finger on his friend's tongue and stroked his body from the navel to the throat. He did the same thing to Subodh, saying, awake, mother, awake. Then he told them to meditate. That is Ramakrishna's initiation, no? Jagat Guru, the world teachers, they inspire in the mind. Worldly gurus give mantra in the ear. But this is his mantra, what nothing to say is meditate on God. And what Ramakrishna did, asked their tongue to pull out the tongue and wrote something in the finger like that. And all touch the towards the chest, touch the chest and pull them out, that Kundalini comes out. Mahava. See, this is called avatar Avatar's power of awakening the hidden spirituality is so different.
Do we know what he wrote on the tongue, Maharaj?
I do not know. That is never mentioned anywhere. Maybe some beach mantra or something. And his touch itself is. Did he not do it? Kali Abhedananda, who did? Sri Ramakrishna did or Mother
Yeah,
did?
no, he did. Mother also gave
Mother also
mantra,
gave some.
but he wrote on his tongue and also said it out loud. What he
Ah,
wrote. That's the only time that I.
yeah, I also don't remember in other place. The master's magic touch awakened Subodha's latent spirituality. No sooner had he begun to meditate than his whole body trembled and he felt a current rushing along his spinal column to his brain. An ineffable joy overwhelmed him, and he saw a strange light within him in which the forms of numerous gods and goddesses flashed. His meditation deepened, and the boy lost all sense of personal identity. When he regained consciousness, he found the master stroking his body in the reverse direction. It was like this. Now he's putting the reverse direction from head downward. Well, he said, have you practiced meditation at home? That is the question for Subodh. The boy replied, very little, sir. I used to think a little of gods and goddesses since I heard them from my mother. Ah, said the master, that's why you could concentrate so easily. Then he asked Shirod, his friend, if he had seen or felt anything. When the boy replied in the negative, the master said, all right, you will do so later on. See, two friends, Sri Ramakrishna did the same thing. In one place, you see the experience. Huh? What a beautiful experience. We should read again. What is that experience? The master's magic touch awakened Subodh's latent spirituality. No sooner had he begun to meditate than his whole body started trembling and felt a current rushing along his spinal column to his brain. He felt this way. The experience, no? And ineffable joy overwhelmed him, and he saw a strange light within him, and in that light he found numerous forms of numerous gods and goddesses. These are all true. We sometimes, our gurus, our teachers guide us to think of the light in the heart, no? We think this is, what type of imagination is this? These are not imaginations. These are the experiences. When really something mind will be pure, this type of experience can be felt. Ah. So then different gods and goddesses are coming out of that infinite ocean of light. Just imagine what a beautiful experience, spontaneous by the touch of, but touch of Ramakrishna did. But two people have different effect. And when the other friend, Shirod, Ramakrishna asked, what did you feel? He didn't feel. But Sri Ramakrishna, it will happen. Here is also the same thing. These are the truth. So you can get glimpses of that, what actually is spirituality. It is an awakening of consciousness. And it is rising the lower consciousness to the higher conscious state. And ineffable joy, ocean of light, different gods and goddesses. Or some people may not see the gods and goddesses. Whatever, some divine entities, or the bliss will be there, the joy will be there. It is so. As soon as this mind becomes ready, it happens. Sri Ramakrishna then told both of them to go to the Panchavati and meditate while he returned to his room. We can see how Ramakrishna is working in two fronts. He was sitting in his room. The room was full of devotees, and he was talking about the spiritual things, and he found in the door these two boys have come, and when his attention drew, then he asked others to wait, and in between he did this trick. He come out, remember, and then went to the Shiva temple, and just imagine those scenes. This is called Lila Chintan. That is also a good thing to do. Think Subodhananda Swami picture is above and the shrine. Ah, and how he's sitting there and Shirod is sitting there, Ramakrishna went there, all the description is you can remember these memoirs. This is it's a great help for our spiritual growth. And then he, after giving this experience, he asked both of them to go to the Panchavati and meditate little bit. That's also another thing. After getting initiation or getting the mantra, immediately people go on talking other things to disturb this mood which is created. So it should be very serious when it is done to keep that mood to do immediately more intense concentrated practice. They didn't know where the Panchavati was, so they went to the Kali temple for meditation. Afterwards, they went to Master's room. When they took leave of him, they were given some refreshments and again asked them to take carriage fare, but they declined. The Master said to Subodh, "There is a teacher who lives near you whose name is Mahendra M. He often comes here and is a good man. Go to see him now and then, and also come here." Subodh made no reply because he was not certain that he would be able to do or see M. Like a child, Subodh would freely discuss his personal problems with the master. One day, when Subodh informed the master about his fear of ghosts, Sri Ramakrishna pressed his thumbnail between Subodh's eyebrows here. From then on, he would see a soft light over his forehead, and that permanently destroyed his fear of ghosts. We are also troubled with ghosts. Someone should touch our forehead like this. As he was close to mother, he told her about his vision of light. She said, "My son, you are fortunate, but don't divulge it to others. You will lose it if you do so." Subodh lost interest in his studies. He preferred to be with Sri Ramakrishna and to spend time in meditation, prayer, repeating the name of God. Some days he was so late in returning from Dakshineshwar, and his private tutor had to wait for him. One day the tutor indignantly said to Subodh, "You are neglecting your studies. If you are not punctual, the next time I shall report it to your father." Subodh replied, "What will my father do? He does not read. It is I who am supposed to read. If I don't have the desire, none can force me to read. But please come as usual. I shall study whenever I have time and inclination." The tutor was surprised and out of duty reported the incident to his father. The anxious father remarked, It's a matter of concern, but it is better not to put too much pressure on him. I have noticed that whatever he reads attentively." Anyhow, so this is the way the meeting with Ramakrishna. After some time, the master asked Subodh, "Mahendra's house is very close to your home. Then why don't you call on him?" Then Subodhananda replied, "He has not been able to renounce his family life. What could I learn out of God from him?" But immediately the master said with a laugh, "Oh, Rakhal, did you hear what this rascal Khoka said?" He was pleased to see Subodh to so stern in his renunciation. But he said, he won't talk about himself. He means M. Ramakrishna said, he won't talk about himself. He will only tell you what he has learned from me. Don't hesitate to go to him. So after a couple of days, when Subodh family went to see M, he relayed this conversation in his blunt way. M said humbly, it is quite true. I am nobody, but I live beside the ocean of knowledge and bliss, and I kept a few pitchers of that water with me. When a guest comes, I offer that to him. What else I to talk about? That's a wonderful statement of M, no? He's so humble. He says, really, you are right. Subodh said, what shall I learn from you? You are a householder. But M didn't get offended by that. See, this is the greatness of them. He said that, but this statement that is quite true. I am nobody because M has nothing of his ego or personality. Only he used to talk about Ramakrishna day and night. And he expressed that way, I live beside the ocean of knowledge and bliss. Ramakrishna is the ocean of knowledge and bliss. And I have collected a few pitcher of some ocean water. And whoever comes, I entertain with that ocean water of peace, ocean of peace and joy, a touch of that. I relate to that. So I am nothing. That should be the attitude of a teacher. In spiritual world, that should be the egolessness, perfect surrender. M continued talking and shared his experiences with his young student. You see, after I met the master, all my university education became insignificant. It is M talking. When I got my degree, I felt I have learned everything in this world. But after I talked to the master, I realized that all my academic knowledge was nothing but ignorance. Aparavidya. So I could understand. Getting a degree, master degree in those days is a great achievement. But he thinks that after meeting Ramakrishna, he understood these are all useless, meaningless. That knowledge is true knowledge which removes ignorance and helps one to attain Brahman. This one sentence of the master removed my pride of learning. I wondered how people could become proud of these trivial university degrees. After some such pleasant talk, Subodh left, and Ramakrishna, thus did Sri Ramakrishna seal the bond of friends and love among his disciples. They created relationship with aim, respect came, love came, honor came. Ramakrishna was finishing his divine play at the temple garden of Dakshineshwar. He put all his energy into the training of the young boys. Sometimes Subodh would arrive at Dakshineshwar at noontime. Having walked all the way from the school in hot sun, he had a strong desire to serve his guru. While fanning the master, he would feel that all his fatigue had gone. That's also another thing. It happened. His master, Swami Ramakrishna used to do that, no? When even Ramakrishna was not in a physical body. In hot summer, noontime, he is sweating, but he will take a fan. And this photo for us, but he used to fan that photo entire noontime, feeling that, and he felt that his body is getting soothed by fanning the Lord. So this is a living presence. And here is the same experience. While fanning the master, he would feel that all his fatigue had gone. The master could not bear for Subodh to fan him while standing. So he asked him to sit on his bed and fan him. Like a loving father, at times the master took the palm leaf fan himself and fanned also Subodh. Like a father does. The Subodh was fanning and he take the fan and he's fanning Subodh and himself like that. That is called a love. This spiritual organization, what is called Ramakrishna order, has been established on the foundation of this love. Love and intimate love and deep love and respect for each other. Sometimes he would talk to Subodh about japam, meditation, about brahmacharya celibacy, and will also test his faith and devotion. On one occasion, the master touched Subodh's body and blessed him. Today I have taken away the lust from your mind. That he can do. I know of one gentleman, what the Ramakrishna's children had that power. No. There is one man, is not uh, highly educated in the other sense, but he has a skill in carpentry work. His name was Dasu Babu. He became the teacher, carpentry teacher in the industrial school started by Swami Vivekananda's idea, Mahapurush Maharaj becoming the president. He was the school in charge. Mahapurush Maharaj was looking after the industrial school in which this Dasu Babu was there. And it happened, he had to marry, so he has two wives. And he got also one mantra from Mahapurush Maharaj. And one day, innocently, he said, Maharaj, what shall happen to me? I have two wives, and if lust and desire comes in my mind, what my spiritual life is ruined. Then he told me, I met him when I joined, still he was there. He said, you know what last? You bring your two wives, I will eat away those desires. Whereas he can suck those negative feelings from the heart. So that is here is an example of that. That I am talking about Mahapurush Maharaj, here Ramakrishna himself. He says, today I have taken away the lust from your mind. In the beginning, Subodh did not accept the master as an avatar, the divine incarnation. One day, the master asked him, what do you think of me? Subodh replied, people say many different things about you. I won't believe any of them until I find clear proof. At this, the master, who was egoless, said, very well, as money changers checks a coin, likewise accept me after testing. In a letter written many years later, Subodhananda said of Ramakrishna and Holy Mother, quote, if they don't want to reveal themselves, who can recognize them? Quote ends. As he grew closer and closer to the master, his conviction in Ramakrishna's divinity gradually gained strength. One day, when the master advised Subodh to practice meditation, he replied, sir, I won't be able to do that. If I have to practice meditation, why should I come to you? I may as well go to some other guru then. Understanding his inner feeling, the master said, all right, you will not have to practice meditation, but think of me in the morning and evening. This same thing he told Girish Ghosh, no? But he said, I cannot do that also. It is not easy to live with Sri Ramakrishna. He could see the inside and outside of the disciple, like a person sees book inside a glass bookcase. No one could hide anything from him. The master would correct their shortcomings and guide them along the right path. He taught them how to do household duties as well as how to see God everywhere. His room was always neat and clean. Though his belongings were very few, they were nicely arranged in their respective places. The garden paths outside his room were also swept regularly. If any of his disciples inadvertently spat on the path, he cautioned him, hello, what have you done? The Divine Mother walks here. Don't desecrate the garden path. Please bring some Ganges water and wash the spot. See, we learned so much, no? See, Ramakrishna, who is no awareness of his body consciousness, but he is careful about the surrounding, the neatness, the cleanliness, the thing where it should be paid, any dirty thing anywhere. He does not like. So we should be careful in our personal life also. Huh? My room. You see, your room is not your room. It is Ramakrishna's room. So you have to be careful about that, how to clean it, how to keep it. Otherwise, Ramakrishna will say, hey, what are you doing? He may say, but we don't hear. That's the point. One evening, Subodh observed the devotees dancing and singing kirtan in Master's room, Dakshineshwar. They were overwhelmed with devotion. Ramakrishna himself joined them, and his ecstasy surcharged the whole place with heavenly bliss. The devotees were beside themselves with joy. Some were crying, some laughing, some dancing. Others were transfixed like motionless statues. Some began to roll on the floor. Subodh was very skeptical about this kind of emotional display. Still, he waited there to know the truth from the master. When all the devotees had left, the master came to Subodh and asked, "Hello, it is late, and you are still here." Subodh said, "Sir, I have a question. Who had real ecstasy in the kirtan today?" The master thought a while and then said, "Today, Latu alone had the fullest measure of it. Others had sprinklings." That means all actually he was totally intoxicated. Although Subodh did not live with Sri Ramakrishna all the time like others, he observed the master's lives minutely and served him whenever he could get the opportunity. So Subodh contact with the master had not been extensively recorded in the gospel or in the great master because he visited the master secretly on weekdays. So his parents would not know about him. In September 1885, Ramakrishna moved to Calcutta, Sampukur. On Kali Puja day, Subodh met M at 9 o'clock in their family temple, where the latter had come to offer worship to Mother's behest. Subodh was sad because he could not go with M to visit the master. M consoled him, "Don't feel bad. Today is Kali Puja, an auspicious day. Please make yourself cheerful." Subodh then told M his plan. What he said, "Tonight, when everyone will be busy in their temple worship service, I shall secretly go and visit Ramakrishna." It was not that far from that place to Sampukur. Sampukur is very close. Now, in the darkness of the early morning hours, Subodh speedily reached the master and surprised him. "My goodness, where did you come from?" asked Sri Ramakrishna. Subodh humbly replied, "Yesterday I could not come with him to see you. Since then, my heart has been restless to see you. I didn't sleep at all last night. Now, after seeing you, I feel peaceful." The master joyfully told his attendants, "Listen to what this boy says. He was longing to see me and so spent a sleepless night. Please give him some prasad." This is also a wonderful uh, sign of a devotion. Sleepless night, seeking for going to see Ramakrishna. Then he had the days of his austerity. He went to Kamar Pujarammati and then receiving mother's blessing, Subodh returned to Calcutta. It soon became unbearable for him to stay at home. So one day he simply walked away. He first went to the family temple, that is Makali, and prostrated before the Divine Mother to ask her blessings. He felt that Mother smiled and told, "Don't be afraid, I am always with you." Subodh crossed the Ganges, Ganga, started walking on the Grand Trunk Road, which led to Benares, 500 miles away. His longing was so intense that he felt his life was useless without God realization. If anyone asked about his home or family, he would say he had none in his world. There is nobody. For the sake of my mental peace, I left home. I began my journey heading towards the western part of India on foot without carrying any money with me. If anybody wanted to talk to me on the way, I would talk only of God. As a result, no worldly thought would enter my mind. Sometimes I stayed at night under a tree or in a meadow or in the bank of a river. At noon, I ate whatever I could get by begging from door to door like the mendicants. I had no extra clothing or shoes or umbrella. In the rain, my clothes would get wet and they would eventually dry from my body heat. So that type of renunciation. And he left home. It is difficult for a free bird to live in a cage. Ramakrishna had given Subodh a test of renunciation and divine bliss. He could no longer live at home. He joined the Ramakrishna monastery at Baranagar, performing the traditional Viraja Homa. Subodh took final monastic vows and became Swami Subodhananda as one of the youngest disciple of Ramakrishna. He is called Khoka Maharaj. Khoka. Swami Vivekananda and others laughingly called him Khoka, which means little boy. About his days in Baranagar, Subodhananda said, Swamiji and others were engaged in deep meditation and japam. I used to wash the dishes, sweep the floor, and do all sorts of household work. He was reluctant to say anything about his personal experience. Once, when someone asked whether his Kundalini had awakened, he replied, Yes, sometimes I feel a tickling sensation rising from the bottom of the back towards the head. So, this was we have no more time. So, it's very interesting. If we go to the life, and Swamiji asked him one day in Baranagar, no, Baranagar or Alambajar, where, and he asked him to speak, everyone will have to speak. And as soon as Koka stood up to give a speech, and their earthquake happened. And everyone's lecture, everything stopped, and they all ran away. Then Swami Vivekananda, he remarked, but Koka's lecture was so powerful, the earth was shaken too. The earthquake came from the earth is shaken. So that was the Koka's childlike, simple behavior. And Koka Maharaj used to live at Belur Mott, I have heard, under the with Shuddhananda Swami and others sharing rooms. Those days, Belur Mott was very lacking in space and other. So, but he was like a child. Huh? And another interesting story is there, Koka Maharaj. What? So many. Anyhow, Sri Ramakrishna's uniqueness is to get all these people together for the good of humanity and creating several samples. Uh, what happened to the end? Hmm. Oh, that story is there. Yeah, that was a miraculous story. He also went to the East Bengal and then he stayed in Belur Mott, worked in the vegetable garden with Buddha Gopal Maharaj, Advaita Ananda. Eh? Advaita Ananda. Swami, sometimes he would go with Akhandananda to collect Nageshwar Champa, which was a favorite flower of Ramakrishna. He also traveled to raise fund for master's festivity or to buy food from the monastery, like that. And Belur Mott, Kokamara, easy access. He used to be, everyone, he was like a child. So everyone is busy, but he was very, that unique story. Swami Vivekananda was very happy one day and told Koka Maharaj, Koka, I'm very pleased with you. Ask any boon. Any boon you like, ask. You'll get it. And Khoka could not find out what the boon he can ask because all spiritual experience and things are already done. So he said, okay. After a long thought, he said, okay, bless me so that I don't miss my cup of tea every day. And actually, so in odd situation, in odd places, Kokamara's got his cup of tea wherever he was. So this is a simple thing, but it indicates the depth of this great song. Let me end with the last paragraph. Subodhananda demonstrated in his life how to face inevitable death. When he was very sick, he could not read the scriptures. His attendants would read to him the Gospel of Ramakrishna, the Bhagavad, the Upanishad. Sometimes, in an inspired mood, he would say, the world with all its enjoyments seems like a heap of ashes. I don't feel any attraction for all these things. Again, he would say, I don't depend on anybody in the world. If you say a few sweet words, people come to you. And if you not, then they go away. Such is the nature of human beings. I only look at God. I said, the Master, enough of this world. Please take me with you. Wait a few days more, said the Master. Let it be so. Let his will be done. If anybody asked about his pain, he replied, when I think of the Master, I forget all physical pains. Subodhananda was fully conscious and cheerful until the last. One morning, when Swami Subodhananda came to pay his respect to him, Shuddhananda, Shuddhananda was the general secretary that time. He came to pay respect to Koka Maharaj. He said, Sudhir, how are you? His body was so weak that it was difficult for him to keep his eyes open. When his attendant asked, Swami, do you remember the Master, Holy Mother, and Swamiji? Subodhananda replied, yes, I remember them all distinctly. An hour before his death, he looked intently at the picture of Ramakrishna, and then suddenly his face glowed with smile. A monk asked, Swami, can you see the Master? Subodhananda nodded his head. Then his eyeballs turned from left to right as if he was searching for something. Again he smiled and then passed away on Friday, December 2, 1932. The monks chanted Jai Sri Ramakrishna and Vedic mantras, decorated his body with the flowers and sandal paste, carried it to the burning ghat at Belur Math near the Ganges, where it was cremated with the sandalwood, etc. The night before he passed away, Subodhananda said, my last prayer is that the blessings of the Master be always on the order, this holy organization. Let the blessings of the, if the order means this holy organization, not of the building and other things, but the people, so that the spirit, Ramakrishna spirit can continue. Surrendering himself completely to Sri Ramakrishna, he conquered death. On his deathbed, he would often say, quote, it does not matter if this body dies, I shall go to the Master joyfully. And he did. Swami Subodhananda remained the same joyful little boy throughout his life, the ideal model of a divine child of Sri Ramakrishna. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So we end here. Jai Ma.